Hello there, we're just doing a sample class today for the postnatal population. So we're going to be doing just a sample, about 15 minutes of what my teaching looks like. So here we go, we're going to get started. We're going to need a mat. So I have a mat like that. I like the half blocks because they are quite good to work with, but you can use a regular yoga block or a book. Or even a bigger blanket. I usually use a hand towel to help pelvis. So if you have those three things, the mat, the block, and the towel, that would be fantastic. So what we're going to do, start right away. So I'm going to sit on my half block. You can sit in your book or your yoga block. I'm going to cross my legs because I feel comfortable in this position, but if you feel comfortable with having your legs stretched forward or even one stretch and one bend, then that's okay as well. So just find whatever is comfortable with you. The idea on this, and I'm going to turn sideways so you can actually see it, is that the pelvis is nice and stable. So I'm not tucking under and I'm not like hyperextending and getting sort of like that extra curvature in my back. So the idea is that I have a neutral spine and a neutral pelvis. And how do I know that? Is that if I look forward and I put my hands in the front of my hip bones, it's as if I would have car lights and they are straight, shooting straight forward as opposed to up or even down. Okay, so nice and tall in the spine. I'm going to close my ribs, so I'm not looking for my ribs to be in here in the front, but nice and stuck up on my spine. Okay, so what we're going to do is put both of our hands on the side of our ribs. I'm going to take a nice inhale and then exhale. And when you take an inhale, I want to see that those hands split apart, and then when you exhale, that's the hands come together. And one more time, inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. So what we're trying to practice here is our 3D breathing. So what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can send the breath into the back. So what I want to do is put one hand on my back, so you can see here, it's not on my spine, but it's right on the side there, and one on my belly. So I just have it on my belly here, and we're going to take a big inhale and exhale. And inhale and exhale. So what we're trying to do here is that every time that you inhale, you feel that your back extends and pushes your hand, and when you exhale, your hand closes. Okay, so in the last little bit of this is that we're going to bring a little bit of awareness into the pubic bone, so the bone that is like right in front, below in the pelvis, and the reason why is because that is your pelvic floor. So the idea is that when you inhale, the pelvic floor lowers, and when you exhale, everything sort of closes and comes together. So we're going to put a hand in that pubic bone and then one hand in the belly or the side ribs, and again we're going to take a big inhale, trying to send the breath into that pubic bone, and then exhale, contract and bring the pelvic floor up, and again. One more time. Excellent. So that is your 3D breathing in a nutshell. So we're just going to put the equipment to the side, and then we're going to lower down into our backs. For me, every time that we lower back to the floor, especially if you have abdominal separation, it's for you're not doing a crunch, but you are going to slide. Okay, so before we go down to the floor, I wanted to talk a little bit about diastasis recti and really what it is, and it is a condition that is very common once we have babies, and it is truly the separation of the two halves of the abdominals, the patty-like tissue that connects the two halves of the abdominal walls. It's called linea alba. And sometimes that linea alba loses the elasticity, and so we want to check to see if there is a gap, but also if there is elasticity in that putty-like tissue that connects the two halves of the abdominals. So we're going to slide down, and we're going to turn into our backs, making sure that your knees are bent. And what we're going to do is nothing like a crunch. You're just going to take a big breath, exhale, and when you get your shoulder blades off the floor slightly, and then with your fingers going down towards your feet, you're just going to slightly press below and above the belly button to see if there's any gap, okay? And then release and relax. Now, the next time what we're going to see is we're going to check for that tension in that linea alba. So ready, take a big inhale, exhale, bring the pelvic floor up, contract the abdominals, and see if there's resistance every time that you push, if your fingers bounce, okay? So there you go. So that is for you to check, to do your self-check on diastasis recti. If you notice that the first time that you check that there is 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 fingers below the belly button or above the belly button, then that means that you have a separation, and that is normal. Don't be concerned. There's ways of rehabilitating for that, and safe ways to exercise. And if you notice also that when the second time we check that there is no bounce into that linea alba, again, there is a way to rehabilitate it. If you did have bounce, then that's great news, because it means that we can work on having your abdominals coming back together. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do for exercises is Kegels. And what is a Kegel? Is truly a contraction of the pelvic floor. And so every time that we contract the pelvic floor, as we did with that 3D breathing, the abdominals are going to come in place. And it's very important that we follow that correct breathing pattern, that we learn to exercise with that correct breathing pattern, and with helping recruit the pelvic floor that comes in and up. Okay. It's also very important that we learned to relax the pelvic floor. If you think about the pelvis is a bowl, and the pelvic floor, really what it does, it sits at the bottom of the pelvis, and really what it does is to keep all of our organs together. The pelvic floor is supposed to be more like a trampoline, so it's supposed to be like this. It shouldn't be hyperextended, or it shouldn't be like a hammock, but it should be like a trampoline where you needed things bounce off it, and not, if it is like a hammock, where things will start sort of like collapsing into it. Okay, so a way of creating a very healthy pelvic floor is by doing some exercises. Okay, and we start with Kegels, and once we start incorporating more exercises, the idea is that those Kegels come with, and that we start doing more compound exercises, and we can sort of recruit everything together. Okay, so we're going to get down, turn into our backs, and we're going to take a nice and deep inhale, exhale, and as we exhale, we're going to contract that pelvic floor and hold it for 4, 3, 2, 1, and big inhale, and release, and one more time, exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax, and let it go, and one more time, exhale. Now notice that there's not a whole lot of movement that you can see visually, and relax and let go. The idea on the Kegels is that it's all internal, and let go. The glutes are not included in it, and neither are your thighs. Okay, everything should be internal. One more time, inhale, and exhale, and hold for 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. And when I say relax, I really want you to relax your pelvic floor. Okay. So what we're going to do now is clamshells. And the reason why I like clamshells is because First of all, we don't put you in all fours because if you do have diastasis recti, I want to keep you from going in all fours, so you don't put more pressure in that abdominal separation. And also because it is a way of starting nice and comfortable. So notice that I have curves and I like to put a towel in the lower half of my body. I will hold my head. If you're comfortable coming down, then that's okay too. My legs are at 90 degrees, and now notice that I'm going to roll my hip forward, so then both my knees are at the same level. I'm going to close my ribs, and then I'm going to bring my knee, my top leg off, and close it back up. And and 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Excellent. If you feel that this is not enough resistance, then you're more than welcome to put your hand above your knee and then just create a little bit of resistance by pushing on the opposite way, so trying to push the leg down as the leg comes up. Okay, so every time that we're going to do this contraction, I am trying to contract my pelvic floor with it as well. Okay, so we're going to switch to the other side. I'm going to bring my towel with me. I'm going to lay here, cradle my head. Again, remember, if my hips are rolling backwards, I'm going to roll them forward so those knees are nice and even. And then I'm going to close my ribs so my spine is in neutral. And then I'm going to start doing my clamshells. Okay? And if I need a little bit more resistance, then I'm going to create a little bit more resistance with my hand. And 2 more, and this is your last one. Excellent. And so what we're going to do with all of the exercises that we're doing is doing 1 round, and we're going to see if we can do a second round, okay? So the next exercise that we're going to do is called pelvic lifts. So we're going to just stand up. And so what we're going to do is we're going to stand nice and tall. And the idea on this, and you're going to notice that I am focusing a little bit more onto the pelvic area, and there's a reason for it. So when we stand, we want to stand nice and tall, with the knees not hyperextended, neither bent, but nice and tall. Where there is a micro bend into that knee, and I'm not tucking my pelvis in, or I'm not creating more of a curvature in that spine, but we're always working into that neutral spine where the spine is stuck up and we have the ability to create reaction in our body. Now, I'm going to find hip width apart, and so with the pelvic lift, what we want to do is if I want to send my weight, the idea is that I'm going to root all of my weight into this leg, into my left leg, and then I'm going to bring my other leg up and then down again, and then up and then down, and then up and then down. And so what you're going to feel is that you're going to be working on the outside of your pelvis. And so the idea on this exercise is that we learn to actually use the musculature in our pelvis to help our gait, so when we walk. Excellent. Those are 5. And so we're going to switch to the other side. And when we switch to the other side, remember, hip distance apart, I'm going to send my weight and root that leg down. You're going to feel that your glutes are going to be working quite a bit. And then I'm going to see if I can send the 2 arrows opposite to each other. So this one goes down and this one comes up. In there. Yes? Excellent. And so the idea on this exercise is when I'm going to take a step, I take a step and then my pelvis is going to stabilize. Yes? And I'm not going to, when I take a step, collapse into that trochanter. Yes, the idea is that we're going to learn to keep our pelvis nice and stabilized. Yeah. Most often, as moms tend to put weight on one leg or the other, crank baby in one hip, and this creates a lot of tension in that socket, right? And so we want to stay away from that. So every time that you're standing, I want you to think of standing in both legs and being rooted in both legs, yes? And if you are going to be on one leg, to truly use all of the musculature in that hip to be able to actually take a step and go, okay? So the next exercise that we're going to do, and we're trying to bring it all together, and remember this is a sample class, it's a short stop squat. So before we go into a full squat, I want you to learn to do your 3D breathing along with your contraction of your pelvic floor and your abdominals, so your back is safe, and you can create a better overall posture. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put our hands into our thighs, and we're going to take a big inhale, exhale, and we're just going to hinge at the hips. Just before the hands get to the knees, we're going to stop, and then we're going to come right back up. And then again, inhale, exhale, and stop right there before inhale and exhale. Inhale and then exhale. Inhale, exhale. If you're not finding that hip hinge, I would suggest that you put your hands in the crest of your hip, and then inhale, exhale, and as if you're going to crush your fingers with your hip, and then you're going to come right back up. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, relaxing the pelvic floor. Exhale, retouring the pelvic floor, and then right back up. All right, and that would be our class for today. That was just a sample of what a class looks like with me. My name is Maria. I am an AFLCA instructor, and so if you have any questions, let me know. I'm here. Thank you for joining me today. Have a great day.